The World Cup is a hotbed for espionage.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
At least that's how Axios has characterized it. There are some legitimate concerns over privacy and safety. Concerns that come from two apps that are reportedly required for all foreigners visiting Qatar for the World Cup. Concerns that are not eased when looking at Qatar's recent human rights record. And concerns that are made worse when analyzing FIFA's public response to these concerns. Let's talk about exactly what these concerns are and why the World Cup may be rich with people spying on each other. But before we get going, I want to say off the top that we're not going to be talking about the human rights record. That's kind of out of scope for this video in some ways, just because it's not entirely cybersecurity related. So if you want to learn more about that, I recommend just checking out Johnny Harris's videos on it. The videos he put together they're just better than anything I could really do. No, we're going to be talking specifically about espionage and specifically cybersecurity. Axios recently published an article characterizing the World Cup as a hotbed for espionage. And in it, they cite a report by Recorded Future, which digs into all the different security concerns currently existing around the World Cup. In that report, Recorded Future points out that in cyberspace, nation-state actors are unlikely to launch any kind of cyber attack to disrupt the World Cup. Notably, they add an exception for Russia, who they point out may feel compelled to do something in response to their teams being barred by FIFA from the World Cup as a result of their invasion of Ukraine. They mention a group that, if you've been watching my channel recently, you're probably going to recognize: Sandworm. Sandworm launched a cyber attack on the Olympics while they were in Korea in 2018, which saw the deployment of a wiper malware strain called Olympic Wiper. All of this being said, they do conclude that while Russia has both the capability and motivation to target the World Cup, they likely won't due to their war in Ukraine and the availability of manpower to actually carry out a cyber attack. We recently talked about how Sandworm has been stretched thin in Ukraine and how that's a reflection on the strain Russia has endured as its invasion plans have failed time and again. So if the nation states themselves aren't planning any kind of cyber attack, then we're all good, right? Well, not exactly. First, while we've probably already for the most part been able to rule out the potential for a nation-state cyber attack to disrupt the World Cup, there's still more than enough room for just general intelligence collection. Let's talk about how that can be done specifically in cyberspace, because it might actually be done right now without you even realizing it. Right now, there's a decent chance that you're either watching this on your smartphone or you have one on you. That smartphone is one of the most effective intelligence collection assets anyone could possibly possess. It has a camera, a microphone, a Wi-Fi and cell chip to send and receive data, local storage, strong computing power, and it grants the ability to track its every location. While we typically think of all these features as not only benign but integral to our daily living, these features can be used against you. We typically don't think about it that way because when we download an app, it includes a privacy policy as well as requests for different accesses, and we can allow it to have that or not. For instance, we can download an app without giving it the ability to access our photos or videos, location data, or camera. However, not all apps actually respect those permissions. Think about the apps you have downloaded on your phone right now. Is one of those apps TikTok, LinkedIn, or if you're going to the World Cup, Haya or Eteraz? Each of these apps has been found to collect more information than they publicly let on. While TikTok has been the subject of this controversy for some time now, LinkedIn has gone relatively under the radar, and now there are two other apps that will be concerning for folks traveling to Qatar to see the World Cup. Haya is an app designed as a ticket for fans to enter games in the local transportation system using their phones. Meanwhile, Eteraz is an app designed for contract tracing and COVID mitigation. These apps are being reported as being required for foreigners traveling to Qatar for the World Cup. Although I have seen some reporting that have countered this claim, while the vast majority of the reporting is that they are required. Both apps are being accused of taking on too much access. One of the more concerning claims is that they're able to prevent your phone from sleeping. These concerns prompted some public statements from 3 different European data officials from France, Germany, and Norway. The German official pointed out how these apps can track phone call metadata, which why would these apps need to track that information? The French and Norwegian officials echoed this sentiment and each mentioned that their citizens should travel with a burner phone and completely wipe their phones once they get home if they absolutely have to use either app. Even if if you refuse to download either app, or if you are not traveling to the World Cup, you're still vulnerable to some potential threats. According to the Register, phishing cases relating to the World Cup have increased dramatically, and those emails include everything from bogus ticket offerings to free online streams of games and other kinds of related messaging. Those emails may take you to a fake login page where you're tricked into logging in and therefore giving the attacker your credentials. Or they could include malware that might be anything from ransomware, or they could be a backdoor that allows the attacker access to your computer. Once the attacker has access, whether it's through an app that you downloaded onto your phone or a malware that you received through a phishing email, they're then able to do a number of things. Specifically, they can expand access, attempting to view things that you've saved onto your device, whether they're sensitive files or photos or videos. They may be able to access your location or view the networks you've connected to. In terms of espionage, mass data collection can be a goldmine, especially if the people you're gathering intelligence from have knowledge of political dissidents or other threats to your regime. Qatar doesn't really have a long list of enemies. This is one of the reasons they've been able to develop so quickly and maintain a relatively strong image in the region, even despite its questionable human rights record. That said, there's clear conflicts within their diplomatic network, such as their close relationship with the West, as well as their close relationship with China and Iran. Another friction point is with Saudi Arabia and Iran. While Qatar may not do anything with the data it collects on its own, it could be pressured to sell that data to another power in an effort to maintain good relations with that other power. Countries that might be interested include authoritarian regimes like China or Iran, which each have interests in collecting data on their own citizens living abroad or on foreign citizens with family living in their own territory. This is all obviously concerning, however, there are some easy things that you can take care of to protect yourself. First and foremost, and this applies beyond just high-end entourage, but be careful of what apps you download. Do some research on what the owner of the app does with the data that the app collects. And if there's any publicly available research raising questions on the app security, then be aware of that. Second, be mindful of phishing attacks. If you're going to watch the World Cup, the safest way is the legal way. I know that makes me sound like a cop, but I really mean that as a risk mitigation strategy, truly, because then you're putting the onus on your own security on whoever the streaming provider is and not yourself. Third, be careful of the websites that you visit. Do a quick check of the URL to verify it's the right one. I know that sounds trivial and silly, but typo squatting is a threat outlined in the recorded future report. I love sports and I really enjoy watching the World Cup, and I hope that America comes away with the soccer-lombardi, as some have called it, and we can stop talking about the last World Cup where we didn't even make it. I also hope that you enjoy this year's World Cup and you do so safely. Hit that like button if you took anything out of this video. It really goes a long way to help this channel out, and it's completely free. Shout out to everybody listed here who has supported this channel in the past. I really appreciate all of you. Leave a comment about what you think about this video, as well as what you would like for me to talk about in my next video.